Hi there, I'm Dr. Debbie, and I'm here in my studio today finishing the recording for my latest course. But I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about some common mistakes that women make when they're dating. Not wives, these are before you ever become a wife. In fact, it's how you decide whose wife you want to become. And that's a very important decision to make, but we typically make the same mistakes. And today I'm going to talk about 5 of those mistakes, and hopefully it will jar your memory. I want you to think back to dating relationships in the past, as well as what's happened so far in any relationship you might currently be in, that to see if you're making these mistakes, and then we'll talk later on about how to correct those. Okay, so the first mistake that we often make as women is that some of us will actually go out with just about anybody who shows interest in us. I know that was a mistake that I made early on. I figured if he paid attention to me, then it must be a sign that I should say yes to him. Now, granted, I was much, much younger when I had those ideas, but some of us still have that, and it's a sense of desperation. It's a sense that there is a limited number of men who will even ask you out. And so if he asks you out and he seems like a nice guy, then you should go out with him. That's a big mistake. You really want to observe a man in everyday interactions or have multiple conversations with him before you decide if you want to go out with him. Now, I remember one gentleman in particular that showed some interest in me. It was before I met the cute boy. So he showed some interest in me and we talked on the phone a few times. It didn't take me very long to figure out, you know what, I do not want to meet up with this guy anywhere. He's just got some things about him that do not appeal to me. Yes, he's a very handsome guy, but he just isn't the kind of man that I would want to be in a relationship with. And so I told him, no, thank you. Now, it did take him a while for that to sink in that my no thank you actually meant no, but thank you. And it took a couple of times of me being very firm with him and saying, I'm not interested in going out with you. Um, Nothing personal. You're just not a good match for me. And don't be afraid to say those things to someone. You can be gentle but firm, and that's a mistake that we make, is that we have a hard time saying no. Again, because he paid attention to us, and who knows, he might be a possibility, and we don't want to eliminate him, right? We want to have hope that that relationship might work out, especially if he is a physically attractive man, or a successful man, or successful man who's attractive too. We have all these exterior criteria that don't tell us very much about the man himself. So we want to be careful not to make that first mistake. The second mistake that we make, and boy, I did this a lot, it's the mistake of adapting whatever you do to whatever he wants to do. And that means that you're starting to forget who you are as an individual, unique person, a different human being who has your own likes, your own dislikes, the things you enjoy, things you don't enjoy. There was a period of time after my divorce when I dated several men. And if you look back at the pictures of me with them, you can see how I adapted to their style. I looked like I belonged with each one of these 3 guys. And eventually I figured out, wait a minute, none of these men are who I am, and ended up breaking it off with the last of them, and then declared a moratorium and went to college instead. So that turned out to be a very good thing for me. And that's where I became an expert in the psychology of men, which really helps with a lot of uh, the problems with dating that I had from that point forward, once I started college and then into graduate school and learned the truth about who men really are. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So number 2 is don't forget yourself. Don't forget what you like. Don't forget what you like to do and your own identity. The third mistake that women make in dating is they tend to isolate themselves from their friends. Years ago, I was counseling a couple who were dating one another. They were actually living together. And in that living together, her friends and her family saw all these red flags about this guy and encouraged her that he was not good for her. So what she did was she isolated herself from people that were giving her negative feedback, or feedback about his negative qualities. She isolated herself from them. But to couple that, he made a point of making sure she had minimal time with her own friends. So he was also isolating her. You really want to watch out for that. Listen to the feedback from your friends. Weigh it with what you know to be the truth about this man, because honestly, that's another mistake that we can make, is to listen to our girlfriends too much because maybe they don't really know. So that's a tough one. When to listen, when to. Actually, I think you should always listen. Just doesn't mean you should always follow what they tell you. You need to weigh that with your own knowledge of the man, of what you want, and of what what you've learned about who men really are. Okay, so I had a lot of women actually give me advice to break it off with a cute boy, and I was like, that is so crazy. I don't even know. They don't know us. They don't know who we are. They don't know how we fit together when we're not around them. And I think those women were actually jealous of the connection that we had. And they were trying to break it up because they didn't like watching something that they weren't able to enjoy themselves. So again, be careful about, taking advice from other women. Also be careful about not taking advice from other women, but really weigh that. The fourth mistake that we make has to do with sexual contact. Now, I know in this day and age, it is not unusual to be sexually engaged when you have just met somebody, even. I've been surprised at how many women will actually get that deeply involved the first day they meet a man. And I got to tell you, that is such a not a good idea. For one, it bonds you to him in a way that makes you want to see him more, but it doesn't have the same effect on him. His bond to you is not the same as your bond to him. So you really need to protect yourself and learn to say no, because you don't want to be bonded to someone who is just using you. And I've got to tell you, a lot of guys, and this is a huge mistake that we make, a lot of guys will be attracted to us and immediately start making those physical moves. You know what I mean? Right? And when they do that, you can be pretty sure that he's only thinking about sex, that he's not thinking long term, that he's not thinking this is someone that I want to spend my time with. It's not someone that I want to build a life with. This is someone I want to have sex with. And we send those messages. That's another mistake that we make in the context of this fourth mistake, is that we send messages to men by the way we flirt with them, by the way we dress, by the way we talk, our language, the words we use. We send them the message that that's what we are all about, that they used to say in the old days, easy. I don't know if they still say that anymore, but that, and if a guy's coming towards you because he thinks you're easy, that's not going to be a good match for you. So another reason to be careful about that particular mistake, and don't send off those vibes that give people the impression that you are that's what you're interested in too. Now, if that's what you're interested in, you're probably not listening to me, right? The people that tend to follow me are those who really want healthy, intimate, long-term, lifelong relationships with a member of the opposite sex. And so that's where I'm directing you towards this. It sounds really old fashioned, but there's a reason that people refrain in that way. And that's because you want to know he has the ability to control himself, And he really needs to know that you are taking charge of yourself too. Okay? So, our last mistake that we make, mistake number 5, is that we're often just afraid of being alone. I know women who have had one boyfriend after the other from high school all the way through to getting married, and then if they happen to end up being divorced, then they're right back in there. They've got to have a man in their life where they can't function well. They don't feel right. And taking time out, if you're not currently in a relationship, taking time out to discover who you really are and what you want in a relationship is so, so important. It is, trust me, I have done this many times, that it took me a while to figure it out. That's why I know these 5 mistakes so well, right? And it took me a while to figure out that being alone is much, much better than being in a painful relationship. So if you are not married yet, you've got time to figure this out. There's no rush. Anybody that's worth that anybody that would be worth having, let me say it that way, anybody that would be worth having needs to value who you are as a woman. And that means that he needs to learn to value what you value and to value your person, who you are. We don't want him taking your virtue or trying to manipulate you with charm. We want you to find somebody who deeply cares about who you are, who wants to protect you, who wants to provide for you, who wants to solve problems and contribute to your life in some way, who wants to um, actually make you happy. Wouldn't that be really cool? So, just as a little sneak peek, I am getting ready to launch the very first course for single women. I know I have a lot of single women who follow me and single women who have taken my class on biblical romance. But this, I'm actually going to start a membership, a dating membership for women. Now, I'm not going to help you find guys. This is not a match dating site, but it is a way for you to be able to have someone walk alongside you as you're learning how to find men that are potential partners and someone that you might want to spend some time with, and then how to work through that process of evaluating the quality of the relationship and helping you understand, is this what you want in your life? And that will be done on a membership, and you can join and you can stay a member as long as you need to. You can drop out whenever you want to, but I'll have weekly trainings and weekly group coachings and some individual coaching by email also, which is kind of cool. But you can look for that coming up in the next few weeks. I'm finishing up another course right now, but I'm going to be diving into this one in the next few days. So I hope to see you there, and I hope this has been helpful. Take care.